Hey Screen Watcher, welcome back to another Double Take Review, where we give you our 2-take double dose injection of pop culture criticism because that's what the doctor ordered. Just a heads up, the first half of the show will be spoiler free for your convenience, at which point we'll be swinging into spoiler territory where we put a big warning on the screen just to let you know, all courtesy of our in-house spoiler monkeys. Without further ado, action! What are we watching? Deadpool 2.
Let's paint in a few little happy trees there. Nothing wrong with making friends with trees. All right, I'm gonna whack off again. That's right. That feels good.
A sequel to a movie that shouldn't have existed in the first place. Action?
Right.
What did you think of Deadpool 2?
Deadpool 2. It was a blast. I personally went into this movie not having any expectations. I liked the first movie. I didn't love the first movie, but went to this one and had a really good time. What are your thoughts?
You know, I liked it. I appreciate it. But I think I liked the first one better.
Huh.
Do you have a preference? Did you like this one better than the...
I think I like this one
really?
better. Well, what is that? Why you like the first one more?
I guess because the first one, I feel, didn't really have like a super strong story. It was just kind of introducing this character, which I feel like a lot of people didn't know, but they, took a run for it and they had a lot of fun with the character. In the comics, he's known to be insane. He obviously talks to the audience, and he does a lot of crazy, zany stuff, and he gets away with it because it's Deadpool. Right. This one, I do think that they lean more into that kind of stuff, but because they try to add like some narrative elements to it, and they end up making a joke of that too. I think it sort of messes up that magic formula that made the first one so fun. Okay. And there was a lot of jokes for me that didn't make the grade. Okay. But I did like it, and I don't think it's bad or anything, but I definitely think number one was better.
Okay, I got
What were some of the things that you liked about it?
I love the fact that the movie knew what it was. So
definitely.
From the moment it started, it was just kind of over the top and very self-referential. The jokes were, when it came, it was funny. It was hilarious, and most of them was at the expense of Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
and
dude, he totally fits this role, and it's so funny because he makes a lot of fun of himself and some of the things he did prior, and that's just a part of Deadpool now. That's what a lot of people think of Deadpool. But he really was. I can't think of another actor who would have been quite the same. Yeah, and especially with his backlog,
right?
It just makes it better.
Well, tell me what you didn't like about it.
Well, yeah, I said there was some jokes, a lot of jokes for me that just didn't fly. Okay, the first and second act, it was a slog for me.
Really?
But the third act was so good.
Okay.
It really was, because they pulled all the punches. They introduced some characters. I'm not going to spoil anything. And it just was an explosion. It was an explosion of awesomeness, I felt. And then our theater had really good sound, too, and I think that really added to just the epicness of the event.
I did notice that you weren't laughing as much.
Yeah.
Just maybe you were not in the mood, or just didn't...
I was drinking, so it should have helped. But no, a lot of them it was just kind of being silly.
Okay.
And I guess the first one I thought had a little bit more zing to it.
Right,
I don't know.
Right.
It was just funny, more funny. I don't know.
Okay.
But this one, I know that they had some early on, the original director of the first one, he wanted to make it bigger, and then the new director that they brought in wanted to keep it smaller because that's what Ryan Reynolds wanted.
Yeah, so I guess there were issues as far as creative differences between the director of the first one, and basically he didn't come back for this one, so they hired another director to do it.
Did you see that Ryan Reynolds co-wrote it?
I did notice at the very end.
One of the writers.
I think there must be a decent amount of ad-libbing because we were looking at the trailers, and none of this stuff in the trailers is actually in the movie, or like the
a lot of it.
majority.
Yeah, I was expecting lines to happen, and they just didn't happen.
And that's good because like they just like did a lot of jokes that didn't even end up in the movie. So when you go to the film, a lot of stuff is fresh. You're not just hearing the same jokes over and over again. One of the issues that I did have with the movie was regarding the audio. I thought there was a lot of ADR.
Well, yeah. There was only a few times where I could really tell that
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds was jumping in to do an ADR versus, the boom mic thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like when they're in the plane and he's yelling,
Right.
we're skimming. We're
Yeah,
skimming. But before we do hop into spoilers, do you recommend it?
Oh yeah, full-hearted endorsement.
This is something they need to go to the
by
theaters to watch?
me. Yeah, absolutely. This is a type of movie that I think kids will enjoy because it's just
It is a family film.
yeah. I mean, kids not like teenagers because of just how profane it is and whatever. But I think everyone in the theater had a good time. Some people more than others, but everyone laughed eventually at some parts of the movie. So I think it's worth the price of admission.
Do you think it'll do better than the first, like box office wise?
I don't think it would do as well because there was a
Really?
novelty to the first one that has worn off by this
That's
point.
true.
What about you?
I do recommend watching it. That third act was really good. So yeah, I would recommend that you watch it in a theater. If at any point in the film when you're thinking, this might be a little slow or I'm not getting what I want from it, as soon as Act 3 comes along, I think all of your expectations are met and exceeded.
Yes,
So,
sir.
with that,
It's
shall we?
It's time.
Cue the spoiler monkeys! Uncharted territory. And I'd like to start with, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Yeah, talk
The
to
Juggernaut.
Me, talk to me about it because Juggernaut was one of the hated characters when he showed up in, I think it was The Last Stand.
Well,
or
when I saw that film way back then, people actually were really excited for the Juggernaut. But I know that in time, that movie just in general, X3, was not well received.
Right.
But are you familiar with that character at all, aside from that movie?
Well, no, but I remember watching that movie and then going online and just seeing the hate for that character. And in this movie, it doesn't even look the same.
And I think that benefits it, that they took it an entirely different route. And then ever since Days of Future Past, they've been able to sort of play with the timelines. And
have you noticed they didn't even make one joke about the previous Juggernaut?
That's true.
Yeah, he was just like, oh,
He
it's
wasn't
a new
funny.
character.
No, he was intimidating, and he definitely lived up to the Juggernaut's powers that we've seen before. And that was kind of cool to see, because we'd never really seen that Juggernaut on the big screen. But yeah, Juggernaut, his mutant power is he's an unstoppable force, like a locomotive.
Right.
It's very hard to take him down. That helmet, if you were to remove the helmet, then he becomes somewhat weaker because he becomes weak to like psychic attacks and stuff.
What would you think of Cable, the villain of the movie?
Cable. We didn't even talk about Cable. Not as strong as Thanos. Not like as strong as a character.
I didn't think he was a villain though. Was he a villain? Because
he was just all he really showcased early on was he's a badass.
Right.
And
like I understood why he was there. And I actually in the middle of the movie I just looked at you and was like, isn't this Looper? Because Looper had
That's super. I thought about it after you said that, and the plot of Looper was this old character from the future comes back in the past to kill a kid to prevent some worse catastrophe in the future.
Because the kid will grow up to be a bad. Yeah.
It would have been so awesome if they actually referenced that, because as soon as you said it, I was like, yep.
Yeah, and they never did. So it's just like they made a lot of jokes about the writing of the movie, but they never actually.
There were some films that they referenced that it had something to do with, like Terminator.
Yeah.
The Terminator showed up, and there's a car sequence and everything, and he does reference it, Deadpool. But it would have been funner if they were ripping off the plot of this movie or whatever. But yeah, it pretty much is the same thing as Looper.
Go
in
ahead.
terms of Cable, I thought that it was neat to see this new X-Men character that I don't think we've ever seen before in any of the X-Men movies. And I'm not super familiar with his powers. I know that he's the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey. But to have another character come from the future when we just had that in Days of Future Past, it was kind of whatever. But I know that he really is a friend to Deadpool in the comics. Like, they had a lot of team ups.
Okay.
And it was cool to see him introduced. If they ever do a Deadpool 3, it'd be cool to see what comes from that. Is
X-Force an actual like team up in the comics?
I think so. I'm not super familiar with that one either, but he had like his own little team. Deadpool was never really a hero. He's more like an anti-hero.
Right.
Not really classified enough to be an X-Man. But X-Force was a thing. I'm not sure who the roster was. I do know that Fox is trying to like ramp that up, because even in interviews with Ryan Reynolds on the red carpet, he's like alluding to there will be an X-Force movie, but not necessarily a Deadpool 3.
I mean, they introduced the character as part of the X-Force that I think everyone fell in love with. Peter. He was just a dude. He just showed up.
The catastrophe that happens after they jump off the plane, that was particularly funny.
And okay, so you're doing spoilers. Please stay for the post-credit sequence.
Oh, I did want to say, we just came from the movie, so take this with a grain of salt. I think that's actually one of the best post-credit scenes I've ever seen.
I think so.
Because you really can't do anything like that with another actor, with another movie.
Right.
And it was just awesome. It's a lot of fan service and a lot of really cool things. It was I was laughing and cheering. It was awesome.
Right.
Oh, the secret cameo of the X-Men in the mansion. Did you see that?
That was crazy.
Like, they didn't. I'm really curious how they did it, but they didn't like. They weren't cheap on it. Maybe these actors didn't say anything, but you had Xavier right there. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And you had Quicksilver. He was one that I saw. Did your eye catch any others? As soon as I saw Quicksilver, I was like, "Oh, they got him!" And then they closed the door.
Well, I'm noticing another cameo by Brad Pitt.
Oh, was that? Yeah, I was wondering if it was.
I was like, Brad Pitt, what are you doing?
In the reflection.
No.
Mr. the Vanishing Person. Yeah.
What are you doing here, man? I don't think they actually had what's his name, Hugh Jackman in the movie. I think they just used the footage from.
Still disappointing that we still haven't gotten a proper Wolverine and Deadpool team up.
They did make a lot of fun of Logan.
That's so funny. I can't believe we finally got a good Deadpool, and him and Wolverine are owned by the same studio, and they still haven't had a good interaction with each other.
Yeah, and if you guys hated X-Men Origins Wolverine, please, stay until the end of the movie. There's a little scene that will make you happy.
After credits, really important, and some of the best. But I'm glad that it exists. I'm glad that that original test footage was leaked. I helped share it.
That's true.
And
you sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And then they actually made the movie. So
what a crazy character! I'm glad that he's getting sequels. I'm glad that this obscure Marvel character that maybe not a lot of people knew about is getting some time in the spotlight. So, do you have any final words, man?
I would say. Definitely watch it. I mean, this is a fun movie. We watched a couple of movies that we endorsed, but I never wholeheartedly endorsed a movie that was just fun. I think this is fun, but I also think this is a great fun movie. It's not just like on the border. I would say, definitely go see it. Yeah. And we'd like to end the show with a heartfelt thank you to all of our hardworking spoiler monkeys out there. And so, we hope to catch you again. Keep on screen watching.